What's good, listeners? Our guest on Just Talking is actor Luis Antonio Aldana to discuss his award-winning short film, Acuitzeramo, live on the Chris College Show, Millennial Talk Show. How's it going, fam? I know we're getting Luis in. You got your audio on. How you doing, fam?
Good, man. How you doing?
Hey, we're beautiful. I'm so glad that we get to all have us together, mashed in together. But before we begin, let's go ahead and play the teaser now, just so we can give the listening audience an insight about what Acuitzeramo's all about.
Ya falleció Roberto.
It seems spooky, but it's not spooky. And I know Luis is going to be able to explain that a lot more. But as I was just saying at the top of the show, we spoke with the director of the film, Miguel Caballero, exactly a year ago from today. And what I told him before is, this film is a conversation starter. And why is it important to create more identity in films?
Well, I mean, I just think, like you're saying, it's a conversation starter because the reality is, we don't really get to see the stories about, queer elders in rural, towns. It's just not something that you see regularly, and I think that's one of the things that made this piece so memorable, and sort of has had the journey that it has. Miguel is from that town. It was inspired by just his growing up in that town and seeing, single elders growing up, and being a curious child, asking about, what that was, and sort of being shushed really quickly. You know what I mean? Like, don't ask that question, stop staring, da da da. And really, it was only later in life that he thought, wait a second, like, what if? You know what I mean? All those older gentlemen and those older women that I saw, what if one or two of them had been, gay, had been queer? Let me explore that, And I think it's important to sort of, showcase and shine light on things we don't rarely see. You know what I mean?
I think it's so true. And I know Marissa and I, we were captivated by your performance, including Sal Lopez, who plays a gay blue-collar worker from Mexico. And to me, both Mexican and United States individuals continue to closet their sexuality from the public and their families. Is that the overall message of this piece?
I think the overall message, is just really about empathy. You know what I mean? It's really about getting rid of your sort of preconceived notions, and no spoilers, for people that haven't seen it.
Yeah, right.
but the movie sort of sets the tone in a very specific way. When my character is introduced, Anthony, you're not really sure where I stand in the whole scheme of things, in the sort of in the world of the narrative. But really, I think it's about empathy. It's about understanding someone else's story, and sort of being open to the lessons that come from that openness,
And I think that's a great point that you're referencing, because it's getting exactly to where I'm going to lead with you, because you are the actor, you are storytelling, and acting, to me, at its simplest, is the attempt to most accurately and authentically portray the experience of someone who is not you. And how would you describe your role as an actor?
I think, for me, it's very simple. We're storytellers. And Marissa, can chime in as well. It's a fundamentally collaborative process, filmmaking, and we're just one of the little 100 notches that sort of when they're glued together and where they're sewn together. That's what we do. I'm a storyteller. I'm an empathetic sort of storyteller. When I tap into whatever character that I'm exploring or playing, it's all about. And I keep on bringing up this word empathy because it really is. I had a great teacher, Diana Castle, that sort of instilled that in me a few years back. That our process is an empathetic process, and when we make it about that empathy, not about ego, not trying to get this right, not trying to do this thing in a way that people expect it, but when you make it about empathy and really sort of about understanding someone's journey, someone's life, that's when you start tapping into those moments. We see it all the time when great actors and actresses, when they're tapping into that truth, that empathetic truth, we're riveted. We can't look away. That's, those are the performances that stay with us forever.
And I think on top of that too, it's so much, the empathy has to be there, but also the job of an actor is to drive along the actions of the plot.
Yeah.
And versus getting lost in this, like, oh, look how much I'm feeling. Can't you see it in my eyes? And I really thought that, Luis, you did such an amazing job of doing that, working with someone like Sal Lopez, who is one of the greats out there right now, and is completely underlooked in just the overall
and that's
Hollywood part of it. And like I said, you drove the plot forward in a way that made me really invest in you as a character next to someone like Sal Lopez, who automatically I'm like, I know his work. I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, oh my God.
And that's a good point.
Yes.
And that's a good point that both of you are bringing, because obviously this is the world that both of you are in. Obviously, Luis, you are a renowned actor, along with, Marissa. She's got her actress chops going on. But I do want to reference something that Miguel said the last time he was on the show. And he said that everything needs to be deconstructed. This is his words, not my words. Deconstructed. And over the years, I have confronted a range of opinions from straight and LGBT identified actors and directors about true vision on screen. And should actors truly be selected based on their personal identity and no other experience or talent? And the reason I bring this up is, for example, this morning we found out that Benedict Cumberbatch, he's under fire because he's about to be playing a gay character in a new film called The Power of the Dog, and the conversation once again surfaced. Should straight actors play queer roles? What's your thoughts on this, Luis?
I think it's a timely topic. I think we're going through a moment in our culture right now where it is about it's about deconstructing. It's about representing truths. I'm queer, I'm gay. I played Anthony, who also happens to be gay, but I don't for myself, I don't limit myself to sort of just because I am queer. I wouldn't give myself that sort of limit that I would only play queer characters.
Yeah, because let me follow up with a quote that Benedict Cumberbatch even said moving forward. He said that, I also feel slightly like, is this a thing where our dance card has to be public? Do we have to explain all our private moments in our sexual history? I don't think so. And my first reaction when I heard that was, isn't that so true? I mean, no one flipped out when Robin Williams joined Nathan Lane in Birdcage. And that's one of the most iconic pieces of all times. So why is this becoming the new fad? I mean, we just saw even yesterday, season 18 of Grey's Anatomy, they're casting a non-binary actor to play a non-binary character. And I always feel like these kind of roles are now becoming, you have to be that person in real life to play that. You as an actor, do you feel like that's the new norm headed into the new decade?
I don't think so. I think we're experiencing sort of like, the pendulum. You know what I mean? We sort of existed over here for so long where, everything was heteronormative, white. So many stories and so many details weren't included, and so I think as this pendulum is swinging this other way now, we're gonna eventually get to a place where hopefully, it won't be an issue anymore. You know what I mean? It won't. I doubt that'll happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But I think.
But I guess let me throw it like to you like this, because over time I've found that playwrights and directors are subject to far less scrutiny than you, the actor. And I know we want to share this tweet with you, which was exactly a year ago from today. Oscar-nominated director Lulu Wang tweeted, "The belief that anybody can tell any story they want is why we have monuments of certain heroes in this country and not others. This isn't about race. It's about power and control. The person who talks the most and the loudest should not be the only voice we hear." So, Luis, do you think Lulu Wang has any ground to stand on by asserting that only a Chinese director can tell the pianist Wang Wang's story? This was a rebuttal against director Ron Howard, who I think has plenty of credentials to do any kind of storytelling he wants. Am I right?
I think. Look, I think it comes to this. For example, I'm Mexican, and so. My roots are indigenous and European, so I'm this amalgamation of things that make us Mexicans, right? And so I always think about this. If ever I'm hoping this will happen at some point. If ever somebody were to tell the story, of for example the Aztec Empire, you know what I mean, like some sort of epic tale about that story that we haven't seen, you know what I mean, that hasn't sort of been made in a big way. I would hope that they would choose a director, or that the person helming was Mexican, ideally indigenous, that there was some sort of connection to that story. Not, and I don't know.
But it's interesting that you say that, though, because this is something that I've tackled with many directors and actors. It's like, but what's next if we follow that same standard? You can't do costume and hair unless you are also of that movie's cultural origin. Like, I can't do Wakanda if I'm the most, famed hairdresser.
Well, I also see what, on Luis, just real quickly, I think what you had hit on is the fact that someone has to have that connection to them. And the thing about Ron Howard is he was not surrounded by a bunch of white people trying to make a buck on the story like we saw with Mulan, right? Where it came in and it was like nobody of Chinese nationality, descent, anything culturally, to make sure that the story's being told. He brings in people to actually have that. And I think that's where you're also going to, is making sure who's in the room.
My concern is, like, let's say, for example, there's a Chinese native who specializes in U.S. presidents. So his knowledge doesn't matter because you're not born in America. You kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think it's, and then it brings to mind, I don't have children. Does that mean I'll never be able to play
a father? Right.
So but I think it's two different things. You know what I mean? It's about representation. It's about authenticity. It's about really deconstructing the way stories, films, and since we're talking about films have been told from a very specific perspective. Now opening it wide open, being more inclusive. And more sensitive to the realities and the nuances of certain stories. You know what I mean? I think it's more about that.
And I love the fact that we have a streaming platform now, Netflix, right. Hulu, Amazon Prime is in there now. I mean, all that allows so many different stories and not high budget and have to have that I can now access and see a wider range. And I think that's really important in keeping that representation diverse and bringing in those other stories.
But I guess let's throw a curveball into this, because obviously we're talking about true vision on screen, but we don't talk enough behind the screen. if you know what I'm saying. And I find it, obviously you've heard my opinion just now, and I kind of find it hypocritical of people advocating for the inclusion clause on film sets for, quote unquote, better representation behind the screen if they don't agree with the analogy of true vision in front of the camera. So, and that's speaking from someone obviously who hates both ideas. But what is your thoughts on this? Because it's like you got people out there that are saying, we want the inclusion clause, we want equal representation behind the screen, but then get excited when Pedro Pascal gets casted as Joel in the new video game HBO series that's going to be dropping next year. I mean, that doesn't sound like very much equal representation in my opinion.
I just think it's you got to look at it historically. You can't all of a sudden just look at it now. You have to understand the sort of the history of why people are fighting for inclusion. You know what I mean? It's been, I shot a commercial a few months ago, and I walked on set, and this isn't, I'm not saying anything, just what I saw. I walked in on set, everyone's wearing masks because during COVID, and everyone on set, Chris, everyone on set, I would say 95% were white males on set. The director was Japanese, but everyone else, and I couldn't help but sort of know, like, wow, like everyone on here is a white dude. How interesting, you know what I mean? Like, and so then I think that's what people are talking about. The fact that was just one set, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to say that.
Right. But I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we obviously know that Hollywood film practice, it is very heavily white. I mean, that's definitely is kind of the industry today. And I think it definitely starts with the youth and upcoming screenwriters to bring more of that better representation. But the fact that we bring it into a clause is what I get nervous about. But I only got a few minutes with you, and I did want to bring this up with you because obviously currently we've seen classic superhero comic books being more focused on identity and less about action. I mean, between Tim Drake being confirmed as a bisexual in the recent Batman urban legend story, and now John Kent, Earth's new Superman and the son of Clark Kent and Lois Lane, is bisexual. So now we kind of have DC Comics and Warner Brothers continuing to make their world as inclusive and diverse as the real world itself, which I think is great. But what happened to fighting crime? I mean, is this such a good idea to be deconstructing classic DC characters?
I think it's fun. It's trendy right now to sort of go in there and sort of shake things up, but
who are they making this for? Because I don't see too many young people reading comic books. They gotta be making it for us, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I think what's something that irks me, since we're talking, if something irks you, like, I'll tell you what, this notion that we have to keep on rebooting old ideas.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, speak more.
No, but you know what I'm saying, that
it's true.
That everything needs to be rebooted, and so now it'll be this, and the same storyline, different iterations of that same storyline. Like, I would love to see like new things.
It's true. How do we support the next up and coming great screenwriter with that brand new storytelling, with that representation? But all you want to do is tackle 1940s comic books such as Batman, and then people forget Harley Quinn came out in 1999. Okay, I'm just calling for new superheroes and new supervillains who aren't always white. Okay.
You know what? I have a couple of friends that are sort of indie sort of comic creators. And just know that what you're asking for is actually happening. We just need to, again, shine that light on those independent creators, because it is happening.
That is amazing. And I did want to let everybody know that we have a major announcement. Acuitzeramo will be available to watch on HBO Max starting in the new year. So that is a huge, huge milestone in your career, my man.
Got to see it. That good.
Yeah, I didn't think about the story, but definitely go HBO Max. January 2022 is where we'll be streaming.
That's what's up. And for anybody who wants to see it now, can they see it now, or they got to hold tight?
I think right now it's still finishing. It's doing some festivals in I think in Europe, a few sort of like the last remaining festivals. But I would just say
amazing
until January 2022.
All right, that's what's up. Luis Antonio Aldana, you have been amazing, my friend. Go and check out their award-winning short film, Acuitzeramo, next year, my friend, on HBO Max. Thank you again for joining the Chris Collins Show, Millennial Talk Show.
Thanks, Luis. Ciao.
Bye-bye, guys.
Peace.